My children now.
Hey folks, how you doing? Dave McRae here. Oh, we are getting ready to watch A Nightmare on Elm Street, ladies and germs. Let me just stop that light from flickering and turn on some lights here. We've got some... It's too dark. It's too dark. Right, Freddy? All right. We got some nice... Ooh, I like the mood.
Hey, Tina, watch this.
All right, we are watching A Nightmare on Elm Street today. Let me just shut off that Elm Street music. How you guys doing? Dave McRae here. It is Saturday movie night. Now, for those of you who are joining us, don't worry, I'll probably put on that glove momentarily. But for those of you that are joining us after the live feed, what Saturday movie night is a patron exclusive in terms of the live show, the live feed for level number 2 and 3 members. If you're a level number 3 member, Team McRage, you get to actually vote on the movie that you want me to watch. But if you're level number 2, you get to join into the live chat as well. So if that's something that you might want to partake in, or if you're thinking about becoming a patron and supporting the channel each and every month, the link is in the description. But so welcome everybody. It is Saturday, November the 10th, 2018, and tonight we are watching A Nightmare on Elm Street, the original Elm Street from 1984. And this movie won with 65% of the vote. I thought for sure that The Conjuring, which was one of the options, was going to kind of be up there. And I even think Black Christmas from 1974, that was one of the options I put down. I thought that would be up there, but no. I mean, you guys, people have spoken. You guys want me to watch Elm Street, so that's what we're going to do today. Now, I'm going to let you guys know when I'm going to press play. So even if you're watching after the fact and the live feed is done and you want to sort of watch along with us, you can do that because you just have to hit play when I tell you to hit play. So hopefully we're broadcasting in HD. I think we are. We should be. Like I said, I've been using some new stuff. I think we are broadcasting in HD, so that's always good. I was going to turn on those lights over there, but I'm kind of digging the moodiness of this. Okay, who's in the chat room? We got Chris Manley's in the chat room. Tommy Gibbons. All right, yes, Will Myers is here. David Ferguson, the chat room is heating up. Again, you guys can talk amongst yourselves if you're watching the movie, but also feel free to ask me some questions. I'm just going to putter along through the film and give my thoughts on this 1984 classic. I mean, arguably one of the greatest slasher films ever made. So without further ado, let's get this ball rolling, okay? I am about to hit play now, and I'll show you I'll show you. I'll tell you what's on the screen. On the screen is the New Line Cinema, kind of going from New Line Cinema. That's what's on the screen right now. Goes away. We are fading in. Are we fading in? Yes, we're fading into Robert. I don't know if this is Robert Englund's feet, but Freddy Krueger's feet walking along the ground, and he picks up that bag or whatever, or that thing he's got. So that's where I am right now. This is great. This is. I always remember when I was a kid. I'm going to put on my fucking glove here. I remember when I was, you know what? I just noticed that there's glasses there. There's glasses there. I wonder if Fred Krueger wore glasses. Interesting. I loved this movie as a kid. When I was a kid, I got into Freddy Krueger before I got into Michael Myers or even Jason. I think this might have been one of the first horror movies I ever saw. It was so awesome. I love the way he's slipping his hands, you know, and just A Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah, it's great shit. Great opening for sure. Oh, it's getting a little loud here. Let me turn that down a little bit. Don't want to get a copyright strike. John Saxon, of course, is in this movie. He was also in Black Christmas 10 years prior to this film. I love the way the movie opens, because if you've never seen this movie, and certainly back in 1984, you would expect that we're being introduced to our main protagonist here. And that is a deliberate, calculated, creative choice that they made to introduce you to this girl and not Nancy, right? To show you, well, there's various reasons of why they do that, but I always like this because it kind of shows you the scope. Like, we're not being introduced to the main antagonist first. We're being introduced to her friend. Her friend is also experiencing this. Or protagonist, I should say, sorry. And I love the goat, or the lamb, or the sheep there that run. That's very symbolic. Yeah, this is. Oh, see, I love that when his face was right there and then he moves away. Dark, kind of creepy. Like, what the fuck was that? Like, was there? Whoa, what was that? Like, seeing that face for the first time would have been like, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? Let me just move this over here so I can see the chat room. See what you guys are talking about. Hang on, I gotta throw the movie back up. I'm handling all sorts of windows here. There we go. Chris Manley says, oh man, Dave, Freddy was literally just here. You just missed him. Oh, I see you're talking about somebody else, I guess. David Ferguson says, I voted for Black Christmas, but I'm looking forward to this. Yeah, we gotta get Black Christmas in here. It's good shit. What I love about Elm Street, and you've heard me say this before in past videos where I talk about this, especially the very first film. The second film kind of has it too, but especially the first film, even when you're not in the dream world, there's like this dreamlike hue over the entire film. It's like you have trouble figuring out what's reality and what's fantasy. That's awesome. Yeah, I love seeing that. Like, he's legitimately frightening in this film. It kind of looked like she wasn't really running there. I think she was on a treadmill or something, they said. And of course, she screams and he's gone, and then he pops up behind her. I don't think he laughs, but he just kind of pops up. And that's when she wakes up. Like, imagine seeing this in 1984. Frightening as all hell. It would be. You okay, Tina? You either got to cut your fingernails or stop that kind of dreaming. This is funny. I remember on the DVD commentary during the scene, Wes Craven sort of quipped about this actor that comes in that's, I guess, is supposed to be Tina's father. And he's like, come on, baby, come back. Come on. And apparently those couple of lines got him his SAG card or whatever it was. It was oh, man. That's a whole other video talking about the unions, but it's just funny. I stand to be corrected whether that is 100% true, if you know, but I think that's what Wes Craven said. It's kind of funny. Oh, yeah. And the great... Yeah, I got to turn this up a little bit. 6, grab your crew, stop things. That's great. You notice how we go... See, this is what I mean. The camera pans from the girls jumping rope right over to reality. Like there's not like there's this dreamy sort of foggy hue, and then it pans over and you see the convertible kind of coming, and then we're kind of already here. Like, it's like, whoa, are they actually doing that? Or there's this nice mix, this nice balance between the two worlds, that it really does a good job of making you wonder, am I in the dream world or am I not? Of course, this is our introduction to Johnny Depp. I believe this is Johnny Depp's first movie. I love that. It's not enough room on your joint for 4 letters or whatever. Like, at this point, if you're watching this for the very first time, I would still think that Tina is our main protagonist. It's smart. It kind of gives you the impression that it's not quite the way they did Scream with killing Drew Barrymore, where by killing off a well-established, recognizable actor very early on in a movie, it creates the illusion that nobody is safe. It's like, oh, fuck, if they can kill off this person, holy shit, who else are they going to kill off? It wasn't quite the same here, because obviously this actress wasn't as well known at this time. It's creepy, though. This looks like a house that could be in Haddonfield. Tabitha Short says, so did I, Dave. I remember hiding behind my couch watching this, but peeking around the corner. Yeah. Am I going to say this right? Silas Laws. Am I saying that right? I'm probably butchering it. I apologize. I still haven't got to see Black Christmas, but I plan to buy it and watch it this December. Yes, you should. Good Canadian movie, by the way. Aircar33 says, hey, Dave and chat. Sorry I'm late. No problem, Aircar. Welcome. Todd Fayer says, why did they remake Nightmare? Well, they're remaking everything. They're remaking everything. I love this. Just kind of funny. Yeah. He's got to sort of go with what you're hearing on the ghetto. Look at that ghetto blaster. I had a ghetto blaster up until like maybe 10 years ago, and I finally got rid of it. Yeah, exactly. Chris Manley says, I love this part with Glenn and the tape recorder. Yeah, it's funny. And still, up to this point, if you didn't know any better, you would think that your main protagonist is still Tina. Like, you're starting to get to know her friends more. And sort of where that transition happens is when Heather Langenkamp says, here it is. That, yes, the dream I had last night. And now it's kind of like, oh, wait a minute. So others are having this dream? Great acting, too. Finger knives. Yeah, it's great. It's great building of suspense. And of course you got, the douche that, not the douche, but, well, I guess, yeah, Rod is a douche, isn't he? And one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie is Tina's death scene, but not just the way they killed her. Not the fact that, of course, it's iconic. It's one of the most famous death scenes in the history of horror, especially when we talk about the subgenre of slasher. There's no doubt that Tina's death, the climactic moment of her death, where she's rolling around on the ceiling, and that's fantastic. But people often forget the build up to her death is just as magnificent. I'm not talking about just in the alleyway, this is God. I'm not talking about that. That's great. But just even the very moment that we think she's awake, but she's obviously not. The whole thing is creepy. Freddy is genuinely terrifying in this movie. Of course, this is a jump scare that is only put there to scare the audience, but it's 1984, and at this time, jump scares were not cliche. They were tropes, certainly used a little bit, but yeah. In 1984, it wasn't like, oh, come on. It was more of a genuine relief. It was like, oh, shit, okay. Now it's like, lame, That's great. And aren't switchblades illegal in the United States? I think they're illegal here in Canada, I'm pretty sure. But I think they're illegal in the U.S. too, right? That doesn't stop people from having them, obviously. But I don't think you're supposed to have them. I think, anyway. Of course, Rod has one. Yes, they are. Yeah, that's what I thought. So you sort of like it. It isn't until this moment where you kind of start to feel a natural shift in our focus of who our main protagonist is going to be. Because the camera begins to focus more on Nancy, we start to hear Nancy talk a bit more. We start to realize that she's kind of, cute and innocent. And then, of course, she turns Johnny Depp's character down in terms of his advancements. And we start to realize, oh, wait a minute. I mean, subconsciously. I don't necessarily mean consciously. But you start to realize that, are we going to start to kind of focus? There's that shift that happens, but it's not up until this moment. A good 10 minutes into the movie or whatever we are, 50 minutes in the movie, where you start to actually realize that Tina's not our main antagonist. Because it could have gone, main protagonist, because it could have gone that way. Of course, you hear them having sex, and that's funny. Glenn can't get to sleep. And he feels frustrated here. Because he's like, oh, fuck. I could be having sex with Nancy. He's like, this sucks. It fucking sucks. Sucks! He's pissed. And of course, I mean, there is that, yes, there is that thing that they're playing off of about, the most promiscuous and bad teenagers are the ones that seem to get it. And Nancy, of course, who's innocent, seems to survive and blah, blah, blah. There is a little bit of that here, for sure. It's a stereotype, and it's a certain, but it's funny, now that I'm 40, I look at these actors now I'm kind of like, shit, damn it, I wish I would have shut up so I could hear that. I really liked what he said there, what Rod said there before he turned over, dudes can have nightmares too, or whatever it is. It's like, it's nice. It was nicely placed. And the music in A Nightmare on Elm Street cannot be understated. Okay? I mean, it is eerie and creepy. Oh, yes. This is it. And you have absolutely, unequivocally no idea that Tina is dreaming here. And why would you? They play it completely straight. You don't realize she's dreaming until, you would have no idea. It's not like they put sort of like a hue on either side of the frame, or they, do that Saved by the Bell. I'm kidding, obviously. Why the hell would they do that? But you know what I'm saying, right? Like this, you have no idea. Wait, that she's dreaming. Yes. Tina. Oh, I love it. Oh, this is, you can tell that I'm just, this is fan-fucking-tastic. I get so giddy over this scene. Listen to how deep his... Oh, no. It happens when she goes downstairs. It's like somebody's throwing shit at the window and she can't see him. Wait, listen. Ah, that's great. That's great fucking shit. Whoever you are. Tina. Like, can you imagine actually standing in your window, at your window, and that actually happening? This is great too. Of course, that effect of coming through the wall. Oh, brilliantly done. Of course, they totally destroyed it by doing it CG in the remake. Not that I would expect they wouldn't do it CG in the remake, but this is great. It holds up. It holds up. It looks fantastic. Looks great. Doesn't look cheesy or weird or dated. Him coming through the wall like that looks great. That was, I haven't watched this in a while, so I'm just like, fuck yeah, I can imagine watching this back then and just, fuck. No wonder it, Jesus. And that one note, you hear that note? Oh, now it's dipping down in a few octaves. But you hear that note was constant, It's it creates that sense of eeriness and uncomfortableness, like this pitch that's kind of there, and it's like, okay, this is great. So we have Tina turning on the porch light, and she's coming out the front porch. This is where you hear, Dina. Okay, you hear Dina first. That's awesome. And there's one moment where everything goes quiet, and you hear, Dina. Oh, that's great. Here it comes. Look at that nice blue light, too. You hear that? Dina. Wasn't quite as deep as I thought, but that was awesome. It's so good. It's so good. And like that is what Freddy should be. It doesn't mean that he doesn't have a few little things like he does even in this movie where he cuts off as he's like, but that is Freddy. That is scary. And then he comes out here in the alleyway. That alleyway is actually, I know where that alleyway is. I should do a video from there. Yeah, Tina. I love it. That's creepy too, seeing how long the arms are. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's great. Now that person chasing Tina down the alleyway there, that's not Robert Englund. That's somebody else. This is because she runs into Robert. They had somebody else sort of fill that role. A lot shorter, I believe. So right now we assume, okay, she's obviously dreaming, right? We suspect that. I like that watch this. He's all fucking excited. He just loves it. He's like, yeah, that's great. And notice the makeup, like we're seeing his face, and every time they release the movie on DVD and then Blu-ray, and then I don't know if it's on 4K, but if they released it on 4K, obviously we're going to see more and more of him because things are going to become clearer and clearer. But when I remember watching this on VHS, and he's genuinely dark a lot of the time. Like you do see his face and you do see him, but it's always in that dark shadow, and he's just frightening. This is great. Seeing her being torn and seeing like that's great shit. How frightening. Oh, it's so gory. And of course, she's picked up, and I love how he turns around and she hits him. And he goes into the wall, and it's great. Like no one had ever seen anything like this. No one had seen this before. No one had seen this before. It's terrifying. Like I'm just putting myself in the position as somebody watching this in 1984. It's fucking terrifying. Of course, we all know how this was done, obviously, on the rotating room, which was just great. And everything was bolted down and nailed down. Oh, yeah. Who did this? I'll kill you. Who did this? She's got number 11 on her shirt. That's a symbolic number, too. Yeah, it's terrifying. Can you imagine? I mean, they could have been a little more realistic with their responses, obviously, but obviously they're playing it like they're in shock. So that's understandable. Yes, everybody's saying one of the most classic moments. It is, absolutely. One of my favorite lines in this movie, and it's coming up shortly, is when and John Saxon is now on the screen at the police station, in case you guys are wondering where I am. And one of his deputies or whatever says to him, he's been puking in the John ever since he saw it. Like that to me is like, it's that because he hadn't gone in there yet, right? I think he said it to John Saxon's character, and I don't think John Saxon had gone in there yet. But I think, anyway, we'll find out in a moment. And it's kind of like, it's like, well, he's been puking in the John ever since he saw it. And I love that line because it's like, okay, how fucking bad is it in there? I haven't gone in there yet. How fucking bad is it in there that guy's been puking since he saw it? What the hell am I going to walk into here? Like just that unknown, putting that suggestion into the audience's mind. Even though we kind of have seen the crime scene because we did see it kind of unfold. Just putting that suggestion into the audience's mind, because we haven't seen it with the lights on and, you know, kind of getting any details of it. We just kind of saw it in the dark and, you know, the tail end of it, right? Putting that into the audience's mind is like, fuck, yeah, like how bad. It's like in Halloween 2018, right? You know, I'm a huge proponent of that theater of the mind and, you know, not showing anything. Like, you know, I don't, you know, the what you think you see, what you think you hear, the power of suggestion, you know, the unknown, what we conjure up in our own minds will always be far more frightening than what, you know, they can show us. You know, I'm a huge proponent of that, but I do tip my hat to Halloween 2018. Those kills, as gory as they were, we only saw the end result of them, which made me kind of go, fuck, like as a first responder, I'd be like, okay, how bad was it in here that is the end result? Holy shit. Like, what the fuck are we dealing with here? So it's the same kind of thing here in a way. Love it. Of course, now we're inside well, we're not actually inside the Elm Street house, but they showed the outside of it. And funny enough, the front door in the original Elm Street was blue. And I think it might have been blue in Elm Street 2. People in the chat room, comment and let me know, was the door in Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, blue as well? Or was it red? Because I thought it became red in Dream Warriors. That's what I thought was the first time it became red. But maybe I'm wrong. Because everybody knows that house, it's classic now of, you know, the red door. But in actuality, it was blue in the very first movie. And it might have even been blue in the second movie. I think it was blue in the second movie. Comment in the chat and let me know. I love how she's walking. Yeah, I love that. That's like a Kubrick move. That's great. I love that. And she's walking alone. We now know that this is our main protagonist. Like, we now know that this is the girl we're going to be following. Turns around and not there. Love that. Now, obviously, there's nothing nefarious about it. It's a police officer that's watching her because they figure, well, if we can watch her, that Rod's probably going to make contact with her or something to that effect. So Frank Riker says it might have been green. Green in Elm Street 2? I don't think it was green in Elm Street 2. I think it was just still blue if it wasn't red. But just do a quick Google search, guys, if you can. If not, it's okay. I would do it, but I got my glove on and I'm trying to pay attention to this. Yeah, John Saxon's great. Step away from the girl, son. Hold it! Jesus Christ! That's what he wanted to say, but I think he stopped short. He was like, Jesus! And this is great. Like, I love the fact that they legitimately threw this in here they're pinning this murder on Rod. And why wouldn't you? Like, in actuality and in reality, why wouldn't you pin this on Rod? Like, why wouldn't you think it was him? Right? Of course, Johnny Depp and Nancy should have been suspects as well. But, you know, I get it. It's not a 48 hours. There's her what's-her-face from Conjuring fame. Well, she's done a lot of shit, but modern horror fans will know her from the Conjuring series. Not the Conjuring series. Insidious. Sorry, my apologies. Insidious. Conjuring. Insidious, I meant. The Insidious series. Time to look out the window and see Michael, yeah. It was red, Dave, at least from the inside. Oh, okay, yeah, I gotta find out what color the door was in Elm Street 2. So, this is great. I like this. It is very reminiscent of the scene with Laurie Strode in the original Halloween, but it's done differently, obviously, because now we're in the dream world. But this is what's so great. Like, when Nancy wakes up, see, I keep going back to this, but when Nancy, quote unquote, wakes up here, nothing changes to signify that she's in a different state of reality other than the fact that some unusual things are about to happen. So obviously that's a signal to the audience that yes, we are in a different world, but I like that they didn't paint anything around her. They didn't change the color scheme. They didn't change, the lenses. They didn't change, anything. It looks like she's hallucinating, perhaps. And maybe they wanted to sort of add that potentiality there, that is she really experiencing this? Is she dreaming? Or is she just so fucked up that she thinks she's seeing this? I like that. I really like that. It was very well done. And I love the fact that you got Tina in the body bag. This is such a great scene. Look at that school. Look at how eerie that school looks. I mean, it's old. I get it. But it was a great school to pick. One of those old style hallways. Look at this. That's so great. One thing I will say that I don't like about the subsequent releases of old movies is that the more, and you guys probably have noticed this, when they release old movies on Blu-ray or eventually 4K or whatever, sometimes depending on the shot, yeah, she runs into the girl with, and this is great too because she's got the Freddy Krueger sweater on. And for those of you that don't know, I'll mention, I love this. Hey Nancy, no running in the hallway. I love it. You'll notice that in the original Elm Street, Freddy Krueger sweater is green and red, yes, but the sleeves, there's no stripes on the sleeves. That changed in Elm Street 2, and of course, from Elm Street 2 onward, he had stripes all over him. But in the original Elm Street, his sweater was only striped on the front and the back and not on the sleeves. Now, for hardcore Freddy fans, you probably already know that, but some people might not. It's a detail that was often missed. But what I was saying earlier was, as Nancy goes into the basement here, when they start to release older movies on Blu-ray, some of the effect shots get ruined by the release on Blu-ray, because I remember watching Elm Street, I think it was this one on Blu-ray, and the scene where Tina's in the body bag being pulled around the corner, you can actually see the wire pulling her. And it's because of the processing that it goes through to put it out on Blu-ray. And some old movies, I don't know if you guys have noticed that with some older films, but some older films where there was a lot of, practical special effects shots back in the day, you would think that they would digitize that out still. I don't know why they don't, or if they can't. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not too much up on the technology. But it does bother me because I'm like, oh, fuck, you can kind of see everything now. Look at this. He's genuinely frightening. He's not quipping. He's not saying, hey, bitch. No, he's genuinely, he's got that, he's got that kind of vibe to him. Cuts open his chest, the green slime. He's not real. And that if he can injure himself, if he can actually injure himself, if he doesn't care about his own body, what the fuck can you do to him? How can you hurt him? How can you get ahead of him? Right? If he's not even afraid of hurting himself, cutting off his fingers, slicing open his chest, what the fuck can I do to this guy to get him away from me? Because, I can't, he gets off at this. He revels in this. I love the way he's coming. Robert Englund, of course, coming from the theater and having a lot of theater background, uses his body. It's a very physical sort of, the movements of his body is great. Yeah, she wakes up in the classroom, but you see, it just cuts. It's not like there's some sort of dissolve or some sort of dream sequence that kind of fades in and out. No, it's very realistic that way. Of course, that could be budgetary reasons as well. But anyways, Darren Sand says, "Hey, Darren, welcome to the room. I saw the film in '85, and as a Halloween slasher fan, it took me a few years to get the dream world and the uniqueness of the movie. Granted, I was 12, but I really did turn the slasher." But it really did turn the slasher genre on its head. Absolutely, 100%. In '85, I was, what was I? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I was 6. I was 6 in '85. So a bit younger than you, but obviously. But I remember it very well. I remember even at 6, because I had older siblings, I was very aware of what was going on at that time. And like my 2 older brothers are 9 and 11 years older than me. And then I have a sister that's 15 years older than me. So even though I was a young boy in the 80s, I remember the 80s really well. And I remember exactly what you're saying, like just at school and everybody wanted to be Freddy and just how it hit. Like I remember it fairly well considering I was quite young. I loved Freddy. I loved Freddy before Halloween, for sure. And as I've said before, and people don't like to hear this, but Freddy and Jason dominated the 80s. Michael was MIA for the vast majority of the 80s, and you could argue that Michael only had one good movie in the 80s, which was Halloween 2, 1981. You could make the argument that he also had 88's The Return of Michael Myers, but nobody's going to argue that 5 was, well, there are people, but 5 was garbage. That was 89. So between 1981 and 88, that's 7 years there, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, 7 years there. That's 7 years there. Jason and Freddy were tearing it up at the box office with all sorts of kinds of movies and things. And so Freddy and Jason, but they dominated, man. They really did. Now the jail cell scene here where Nancy's talking to Rod. Now, the audience knows now, like, there's two ways that you could do this. And I understand why they chose to do it the way they did, because it's not a psychological thriller. There's psychological component to it, because obviously you're dealing with the dream world and the subconscious and reality. But it's a pretty straightforward cookie-cutter narrative. And it should be. It should be for this kind of a movie. But, you know, we obviously know that Rod is not the killer because, well, we know, right? We're not necessarily in the position as Nancy. We are looking at this as an audience. Whereas you could, in modern times, make a movie like this where you put us in the same position as the characters, where you don't divulge that. You make them think it is Rod, or you make them think it could be Rod, right? And now we're in the same position as Nancy, where we're like, I don't fucking know. You know, I mean, we might be a little bit of ahead because we might have, you know, leeway and insight depending on what the movie is, but there's so many different ways that you could play that kind of a thing. And of course now she's convinced obviously that it's not Rod, because Rod talked about having nightmares of Freddy, which of course is parallel to what she knows, and now she's like, what the fuck, right? There's the house. Genesee Avenue in West Hollywood, folks, off Sunset Boulevard. Literally, I'm not making this up, literally about a 2-minute walk from the Doyle and Lindsay Wallace houses across the street. I believe their houses are on Orange Grove, I think it is. You come down there, Sunset Boulevard, you cross the street, walk down here about, I don't know, a minute or so, and you're on Genesee Avenue. If you're ever in West Hollywood, California, you guys got to go there. Frank Riker says, sorry, the teacher is Robert Shea's sister. Oh, okay. Very cool. I did not know that, but that makes sense. Oh, God, what am I? I'm not paying attention. Freddy Krueger's glove coming out of the bathtub. Oh, fuck. What? Amazing. There were a lot of scenes in this movie that were firsts in horror. Like in terms of seeing the extent of where they went with the scene, it was impressive. It was impressive. It would have been impressive to see this. Like Nancy in the bathtub, and you slowly begin to see the blades come out of the water. I mean, that's intense. That's really intense. That's frightening. That's awesome. I love that fucking scene. That actually wasn't Robert Englund's hand, though. That was, I think it was one of the stage hands, because obviously this whole thing was shot in a pool. Well, this is a pool. This is sorry, not this, but the under the water shots is a pool. I think is it Wes Craven's pool? I think it might be Wes Craven's pool or something. It's somebody's pool in like their backyard or something. The underwater shots. Hold on, baby. I'm drunk, but I'm coming in for you, baby. Of course, I'm pretty sure all the men during the scene were hoping that the towel would slip. David Ferguson says, why do they always go down to the cellar or the basement in horror movies? I know. Why do they always go up the stairs when they should be going out the front door? There wouldn't be a movie if they did that. The movie would be about 8 seconds long, and then you'd be rolling credits. I'm just scrolling back up here. I'm leaning across because I can't actually grab the mouse and scroll. That's funny stuff. Okay, so Nancy, of course, has just gotten out of the shower now, and she's thinking to herself, okay, there's something going, like, you know that there's something going, she knows there's something going on now. I love how those pills are stay awake, fast acting. It's marketed like they're candy or something. It's great. Want to really, make the audience know that she's taking, pills to help her stay awake. Of course, that's the Evil Dead right there on the television. That's awesome. It's the first Evil Dead, right? Now, for those of you that don't know, Robert Englund's voice as Freddy Krueger in all of the Freddy Krueger movies, the pitch was lowered. Okay? Like if you listen to Robert Englund on, I think if you even watch the trailer to the original Elm Street and you get to the scene where it's, I'm your boyfriend now, you actually hear Robert Englund's real voice. Now he's performing, he's, I'm your boyfriend now. Like he's doing his thing, but in post-production they actually lowered it a bit to give it obviously a more ominous, darker presence. Now in his 70s, he actually, I've heard him do a couple of Freddy impressions on YouTube, and I kind of think, his pitch is naturally with age, it's gotten a bit lower, so he actually could probably hit the right note easier than he could, 30 years ago when he was in his late 30s, early 40s. But so Glenn and Nancy are here just, talking amongst themselves. All right, there we go. David Lee Barron. Hey, Dave, I made it in. You helped inspire me to start my own business. Really? I helped inspire you to start your own business? That's fantastic, David. What business is that, if you don't mind sharing? You don't have to. I just was curious. Woo! I wanted to fucking punch him. I wanted to punch Glenn right there. Glenn, this is fucking serious! This is serious, Glenn! Johnny Depp. He's a good actor, but man, he went off and became... He's too eccentric for me. Johnny Depp, by and large, is too eccentric for me. It's just too weird. It doesn't look like there's a lot of foliage around that house here. Obviously, she's dreaming now. This is where she walks over to the jail and watches Rod get killed. But there's a little bit of smoke there. I see just a little bit of smoke to add that nighttime ambiance, that nice little sort of... but yeah, there's no foliage there. Now, when you walk up to that house, there's a hedge. Like there's a big hedge around it. And at this time, obviously, there wasn't. I've walked that exact sidewalk, and as you're approaching the house, you can't quite see it, but then when you kind of come in front of it, you're like, oh, it's right there. Obviously, I understand why they would have done that for privacy and whatnot. I love that. I love that creative choice that in her dream, she's got Glenn going, yeah, I am. I'm right here. Now, he's not really there, obviously, right? This is all in her subconscious, but I like that illustration. I like that choice to illustrate that he's still watching, right? Because they could have cut back to Glenn just sitting there in the bedroom watching TV, and he just kind of looks over at her and looks back. You know what I mean? And that would tell the audience that he's awake and still watching her. But they didn't do that. They decided to do it that way instead. And I thought that was really smart. It was, I like that. I like those little kind of subtle details. They don't seem like they're a big deal in the big picture, but it's kind of fun. David Ferguson says, Michael Myers would not look out of place here. No, he wouldn't. You're absolutely right. That's an excellent point. He wouldn't.
I'm gonna kill your friend now.
Now, wasn't this a school or a church or something? Obviously it wasn't the police station. It was something else. I forget what it was now. But this is probably the most dreamy, and it's very subtle. It's really subtle. Like, you know she's dreaming now because she said to Glenn, I want you to watch me. I'm going to go into my, sleep. So we know she's dreaming now. So there's a bit of a dreamness aesthetic to when she's walking along the streets with the fog and the music, but it's still very subtle. It's not in your face. I love this here when he walks right through the bars. That's great. And you don't see his face. You just see kind of the top of his hat, the top of his nose. And then he glances up and you can kind of see him. But there's nothing funny about this. Like, this is a typical, he's like a creepy old man that just, there's nothing funny about it. He's never breaking the fourth wall. He's never winking at the audience. Oh, yeah, that bug coming out of... They don't do those too many... They don't... Well, I guess, no, that's not true. They kind of do. It's just all digital now with the bugs. I think this is a scene that John Carpenter directed. I stand to be corrected, but there's some scene, some moment in here that John Carpenter directed, and I think it was this, the throwing of the garbage pail or something, or there was some scene that I'm pretty sure he directed. Look that up. There's something... I stand to be corrected, but it was something like that. I always... the one thing I didn't like about the scene with her, I love that she puts her feet through the stairs, but you can tell that they've mapped it out. They've either shot this a couple of times and refilled it, or that's just the process of mapping it out. Because when she steps through the stairs, which I really like, you can look at the stair above her that she's about to step through, and you can see a spot where it's, you know what I mean, right? Where she's going to do, you can kind of see the hole that's filled. I never liked that. But it doesn't ruin the movie or anything, but it was just something I was like, they should have been a little more mindful of that, but whatever. I love this. I love the... I love that. And of course, the slashing of the pillow to get all the feathers going around. This is great. Creating the sense of commotion with the feathers and the music and the, and then when the alarm goes off right here, she wakes up and there's no feathers, there's nothing, right? Having the feathers there adds that bit of extra mess. So when we go back into reality and we see, now we're back in reality, the contrast between having a messy dream state and more of a clean reality is apparent, right? It's a nice contrast. I really like that. You little shit. I think she says you little shit or something. Glenn climbs onto the window, yeah. It's great. How you guys all doing in the chat room? Are you guys doing all right? The real James Grimm is here. He says, hey, how's it going, everyone? What are we at in the movie? We are at the scene where, Nancy is in bed. She's just finished witnessing Rod killed at the police station through her dream. And she thinks, I love just the feather that's there. Did you catch that? The feather that just kind of goes into frame? Oh, it's also foreshadowing. Do you guys know that? Because what does Nancy do at the end of the movie? She feels the only way to grab or to kill Freddy is to grab onto him, right? And have a hold of him when she wakes up. Now, obviously, it's foreshadowed as well when she's at the dream clinic and she was able to take his hat out of the dream as well. Absolutely. But even with the feather there too, right? From the pillow, you just see the one feather. It's like, oh, it's a subtle little nod that is going to come to mean something at the dream clinic. And then, of course, eventually by the end of the movie. So I love it. Love it. Eerie and fucking great. Darren Sand says the staircase scene is awesome. True nightmare stuff. Trying to get somewhere and strange forces stopping you, much like the elongated corridor in Poltergeist. Yes! Yes, Darren, that's right. We've all been in a situation in a dream, right? Where you're running, but you're not getting anywhere fast. Oh, fucking just, oh man. Hate that shit. Exactly. Silas. Am I saying that right? Silas? Am I saying that right? I apologize if I'm not, but you're bang on, right? Establishes that the dream world can cross over into reality. That's right. Silas. Silas? Maybe it's Silas. Is that right? Silas? I'll remember this if it's right. That's how it's pronounced. Silas. Silas. Okay, cool. Thanks, Silas. Appreciate it. I love this. This is great. Ooh, you hear the crunch. Daddy! I like Nancy. I've always liked Heather Langenkamp's look, and I think she would have made. Don't go crazy. I love Jamie Lee Curtis, and she'll always be our Laurie Strode. But I've always believed that that Heather here could have made a good Laurie as well. It's the innocence, right? It's the innocence that both at their respective times, Heather Langenkamp and Jamie Lee Curtis brought to the character. We bought that they were like, they're not, they're girl next door kind of thing, right? Like they're attractive, 100%, but you wouldn't look at them and go, holy fuck. I mean, some people do. Okay. It's all preference. It's all subjective. I get it. But there's a stereotype there, right? That we want this sort of girl next door kind of, she's cute. Like she's really good looking, but she's kind of, she's not like, runway model or, Barbie kind of thing, right? You know what I mean? And it's smart. Yeah. And I totally could see her playing a Laurie Strode kind of thing. Frank Riker says, Seema Cunningham did chase scene. Oh, sorry. Sean S. Cunningham did the chase. Oh, Sean S. Cunningham? I thought it was Carpenter. Damn, I got that wrong. Okay, thanks, Frank. I appreciate that. Sean S. Cunningham did that. Okay, fair enough. I thought it was Carpenter for some reason. All right. It was Sean S. Cunningham, folks. Look at the palm trees in the background. Hey, you know what? Is that Hollywood Forever Cemetery? Does anybody know if that's where they shot that? It's possible. I was just there like a couple of weeks ago. It looks like Hollywood Forever Cemetery. It might not be though. I mean, there's a lot of cemeteries in and around Los Angeles that could feasibly look like that. But it does bear resemblance, just looking at the background, to Hollywood Forever Cemetery. Not that it's supposed to be Hollywood Forever Cemetery in the movie. It's not supposed to be that in the movie. I just mean that it looks similar to where... Yeah, it looks similar. It's big like that. Silas says, I think Laurie, as a legacy, has been greatly helped by the path to stardom Jamie Lee Curtis later took, not to mention that Halloween is widely... Yes, yeah, absolutely, for sure. Now, this guy here... playing the sleep clinic doctor is the voice of Roger Rabbit in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I bet you a lot of guys didn't know that. Some of you probably do, but yeah. Please. Something like that, right? Eddie, please. Yeah, he's the voice of Roger Rabbit. That's a fucking great movie too. Director of photography, Dean Cundy. I love this piece of music. I have the Elm Street soundtrack, and I love this piece of music. Can you imagine if this guy right here was talking to the mother as Roger Rabbit? That would be so funny. He goes to conventions. Not for this role. He's usually there for his stand-up and Roger Rabbit, but that'd be so funny. Tabitha Short says, I love this scene after Nancy wakes up from her nightmare that you can see the hat before she brings it out of the dream. Yeah, it was kind of cool. Darren Sand says, do you think this scene is inspired by The Exorcist? Yeah, it could be. It could be. Yeah, I could see that. I could see that. It's kind of yeah, it's kind of a thing of the times, right? Like if you're experiencing some sort of, especially back then in the late 70s, early 80s, it's almost like when you're writing a script like this, you get to the point in the script, you're like, oh yeah, we got to have the parents try to get her some help. So, okay, well, she's, so we'll go to a professional and they'll put her under hypnosis, or they'll, do this or that. Do you know what I mean? So it's yeah, I'm sure, I don't know if it was directly inspired, but it could have been a thought like, oh yeah, we could kind of have our own version of that. But yeah, it is similar because they do try to get Reagan some help in a similar way. Reagan, right? I think that's her name in The Exorcist. I love that you hear the knives and it starts flipping out. It's great. Oh, Tabitha Short says, is that a cat hanging from the bus in the pic behind the doctor? It might be. I don't know. Have to take a closer look. Yeah, like this is total Exorcist shit right here. But they tame it though, right? They don't want to do an exact parallel and have her like levitate or something, because then people would be calling, oh fucking. I love that they have her that string of hair is gray. Really like that. Yeah, there's the hat. And you notice that I've said this before about the original Elm Street, and I'm going to say it again. Everything feels grounded in reality. The dreams feel like realistic dreams. They're not sensational, off-the-wall, crazy shit like you have in Part 5 or Part 6 or, even in 4 and, well, I guess, even in 3. The dreams get crazier and crazier as life goes on, as the series goes on. And I understand it. Like, I mean, that's what I've always said, that if you're going to make more sequels, inevitably you have to expand things or you're just making the same movie over and over and over again, right? And Nightmare is no exception to that. But what is so great about this movie, this first installment, is that the dreams feel like realistic nightmares. They're not overly sensational with crazy wild sets and crazy things that nobody dreams about. Nobody dreams like that. When I say nobody, I'm making a generally speaking, nobody dreams like that. Often dreams, because they deal with their subconscious and they're related more, they tap more into what we're experiencing in everyday life. We're more likely to have a dream of us in our school or in our workplace where we're afraid of somebody, or we go into the basement of, the building of where we work, or, whatever it is, right? Because that is already deep within our subconscious. And there might be somebody at work we don't like, and that person appears in the dream, but as a symbol of somebody else or something else. And I like that about this. It's the one thing I didn't like particularly about the later Elm Street sequels, especially when you got to 4 and 5 and 6, is that the dreams were so sensational. It was like a carnival act. Like, it was just off the wall. And I'm just like, they aren't scared. They're amazing. Like, the sets are fucking amazing. But I don't find myself particularly scared, if you know what I mean. This original Elm Street, it feels genuine, like you fall asleep in the bath and the hand comes out of the water. Like, that's not, yeah. I mean, and she's at the school and she's going into the basement. She's just running from this killer in the basement of the school, or whatever the case is, right? On and on and on. So I really like that about this first Elm Street. Yes, that's right, Darren. Excellent. Excellent. Yep. String of gray hair. Very Joe Beth in Poltergeist. You got it. Got it. Yeah. Like your knowledge. I'm trying to get people to vote for Poltergeist as well. I'd love to watch Poltergeist with you guys. The original, the 1982. I think it was 82. Of course, I'm talking, or the scene here where screw sleep. Speed kills. Screw sleep. Like, I get that Freddy had to evolve. And I get it. I mean, I do. And because of the kind of character he is, but this first Elm Street is just, for me, and as Silas said, he thinks part 3 is that nice balance, and it is, but I much prefer this side of Freddy. I can do without the humor, but I can't do without the scary. And even though, like you said, there was a nice balance in 3, I think you could have done away with even the humor. But that's just me. I still like 3. I do. I like 3. But yeah. Oh, look at this. Glenn. Wonder what they're having there. What kind of burger it is. It's great. Tabitha Short says, this scene is definitely not Illinois. Palm trees everywhere. No, it's not. Well, the movie's not supposed to take place in Illinois. It was supposed to take place in, what was it? California? Springwood, right? Springwood, California? Or was it Indiana? Can't remember now where it was supposed to be. Even if it was in Indiana, there wouldn't be palm trees. I think it's California. I think it is supposed to be California. David Lee Barron says, why do sequels have to be shit shows? Well, they don't have to be. It's just the reason why, as I said, a lot of sequels is because you run out of ideas. What made the first one so great, you can't continue to do that, or you're just making the same movie, so you expand. But the problem with expanding the narrative is that you have to open the door to the sensational often. Not all the time, but often you have to open the door to the sensational, and then it becomes, a fraction of what made the original so great. Sequels, and people have to remember, sequels were not a big thing before, the late 70s. I mean, sequels were not a thing. It just was not a thing. Sequels became a huge thing in the 1980s, but they were not a thing for the most part in the 70s. I mean, you did have Jaws 2 in 1978, but that was strange, weird, and that's an anomaly, really, because Jaws became the highest grossing movie of all time for its time until Star Wars took it over. But there was obviously a huge kind of oh, maybe we should do another one there. But for the vast majority of the time, they didn't make sequels. You didn't need to. I kind of miss that. I miss the days when you can make a really strong, good movie and not make a sequel to it. Because you just don't. It's very, very rare that you recapture what you had the first time. Springwood, Ohio. Oh, Springwood, Ohio. Okay, Springwood, Ohio. Well, there's no palm trees in Ohio, right? I've never been to Ohio, but I don't think there's palm trees in Ohio. Oh, Ohio's the Midwest, so interesting. Yes, but the thing with Bond is that they're different stories, right? It's like Indiana Jones, right? They're different stories carrying over. If you want to, like that you can do because you're not following the same narrative. So it's almost like a television series in this, not a modern one, because a television series today tends to, follow the same narrative. But Bond is a good example of, it's hit and miss. Obviously, some are better than others, but they're up to 25 movies now, or 24. And I think, Bond is a great example of that. You can continue it and come up with fresh material and it still be pretty good. The Godfather 1 and 2 was really good. Godfather 3 didn't do quite the same kind of numbers or wasn't quite as well received critically, but that is a good example of a sequel being arguably superior to the first or just as good. Same with Empire Strikes Back, right? There's definitely examples of movies that have done that, but by and large, not so much. The real James Grimm says you should do Phantasm one of these times. Yeah, I should. I haven't seen Phantasm in a long time. I should watch it first before I do commentary on it, because I haven't seen it in a long time. And if I just do it in one of these videos, I might be, I got to talk about it. So, or maybe it would work best that way. I don't know. We'll see. Airport, Dirty Harry. Darren's trying to name films that have installments that are just as good, if not better than the original. Dirty Harry, yeah, it's okay. Or no, you're talking about sequels, right? Maybe you're talking about sequels. Yeah, Rocky had, but again, again, the theme that you run is that they're different narratives, right? Whereas with A Nightmare on Elm Street or with Friday the 13th or with Halloween, you're following the same story over the course of several different, there's no breakup, right? There's no break in between. Your main protagonist might be the same, but he's talking about the sequels. Yeah. Oh, there are, but you have to remember that the sequel to Rocky was 78, and the sequel to Dirty Harry, Rocky, loads of 70 sequels. There are, well, I wouldn't say loads. I mean, I would say that you're right. There are 70 sequels, but they weren't as predominant as they were until after the 1980s. But there are some. Yeah, absolutely. I do agree with that. I do. For sure. We're coming up to Glenn's death here in a few moments. David Lee Barron says, was Spider-Man 2 better than the original Spider-Man from 2002? 2004. I think a lot of people agree it was. Yeah, Spider-Man 2 from 2004, a lot of people really like better than the original. Darren, I'm messing with you. Yeah, no, I know you are. But you're absolutely right, though. Those are perfect examples of films that had sequels in the 70s. Glenn, honey. Glenn. He's puking in the john since he saw it. Imagine you said it like that. He was puking in the john since he saw it. Frank Riker says, I think this was at the time the most fake blood used. It might have been. Yeah, I could believe that. The only thing I don't like about this scene, and I guess it's because I've gotten older so I can look at things a little more objectively, when the blood first comes out of the bed, right, and sprays all over the ceiling, it looks fucking fantastic. But then there's a scene where you cut away, and when they open the door, it kind of looks like red water because it's thinned out quite a bit. And you don't get the stain that I think they should have put there. It just kind of looks like it's run thin. The colors run thin. That's the only thing I don't like. When it first begins to come out, it's like, wow. But it's almost like by the time they got to the bottom of all that, all the, food coloring or whatever the hell they were using during that scene had run thin. And when they opened the door and you see the light fixture going like this, and it's still kind of on the ceiling, but it's not as thick, and it's not as, and I don't mean ketchup thick, but it's just not as bloody as I think. It's not nearly as bloody as the Tina scene, and I would have liked to have seen it kind of like that. You know what I mean? Where they open the door and it's like, wow, would have been pretty cool. David Lee Barron says, do you think Back to the Future is the perfect trilogy? No, I think it's fine. It's a good trilogy, but I think 3 is. Although I like 3 the more and more I watch it. The older I get, the more and more I watch Back to the Future 3, the more and more I like it. But it is definitely weaker than the other 2. Now, I believe it is this house here, and I stand to be corrected, but I think it is this house here, the house that Glenn lives in, which was the interior shots for the TV footage shot for the original Halloween. the TV version when Linda comes over to the house and Laurie Strode comes down the stairs and she's got the towel around her head because she just finished having a shower, and Linda comes to the door and is like, there's somebody watching me in the bush. Do you guys remember that? That TV footage that was shot for to extend, of course, the length of the movie for network television. I believe all that was shot. The interior of that was that house. I stand to be corrected, but I think I'm right on that. Her mother. I remember when my girlfriend watched this movie for the first time and it got to this scene where the mother's taking the bottle out of the closet. She's like, holy shit, this woman doesn't stop. She's like, ugh, this is great. This is great here. Open this up. Michael Martinez. Hi, Dave. What's up? Hey, Michael, what's going on? See, this was back in the day, kids. Back in the day when there were no smartphones, and when you called your girlfriend or friend, it was a landline and the parents picked up. Remember back when we were younger, those of us who are old enough, I think we're all pretty much old enough to remember this, and you would call and there was always a parent that you would hope you'd get over the other parent. There was always a parent that you would hope you would get over the other parent. I'm calling. Oh, I hope I get the dad. Shit, it's the mom.
Hi, is Carol there?
No caller ID. That's right, Frank. Yep. I like that. And I like when she rips the phone out of the wall, wraps the cord around it, tosses the phone on her bed, and then it begins to ring again, and there's this like boom, boom. Love that. And it's just like this close-up of the phone, like, what the fuck? And in 84, this would have been like, what? Here it comes. I love that. Love that. Like, what the fuck? And this is when she picks up the phone and the tongue comes out of the phone.
I'm your boyfriend now.
It's great. Love it. And of course, that obviously is to symbolize that shit, something's happened to Glenn because he's dead, or something's about to happen to him. Darren Sand says, I wonder if Nick Castle rocked up to this set and helped throw bags of leaves around, repaying the favor, perhaps. Yeah, that's right. Apparently, according to now, Robert Englund has been known to exaggerate stories. He's a storyteller, and certainly he's known to not lie. I'm not going to say lie. I don't think he's lied about anything. But if you know anything about his relationship with Mark Hamill, Mark Hamill has said, well, yeah, I didn't live with him. I was there, and he tends to exaggerate a little bit for the effect of the story. So was Robert Englund helping out on the set of Halloween? Yeah, probably. But apparently it was only for one day, and he helped spread leaves around. That would be funny, though. That would be funny. So here we're at the scene here where Glenn is being pulled through the bed, and if you watch very carefully, you can see a couple little minor cuts. A little minor. Look at this. Look how red that blood is. Now look at the ceiling here. Look at the ceiling here. Look how red that is. It's like, what the fuck, right? Like, holy shit. Look at the light fixture now. Look at the ceiling. Like, whoa. Now look. The mother comes into the room. Now look at the ceiling. Look. It's like concentrated on one area, and like there's nothing on the ceiling at all. There's nothing. Now there's a bit there flowing across, But I think, see, here it looks good. Here it looks good. But it's that one shot when you open the door and it's kind of concentrated there that, it always bothers me. It always bothers me. I'm all like, oh, geez. Can you just get it spread it out? Can we do it again? Do we have another take? Is there something we left on the cutting room floor? You know, I always kind of hope that, you know, we'll see something or that they could actually have fixed that. But it's such a minor nitpick. But even as a kid, you know, as a film kid, I was always like, well, that's kind of strange. It's great shit. Now, of course, John Saxon looking back at Nancy in the windows of the bars on it. Hi, baby. Hi, Daddy. It's going into Glenn's house now. I like this. I like that they're putting buckets because the blood is so thick that it's seeping through the ceiling. I love that. I love that. It's great. Can you imagine if they had never made another Elm Street movie? Now, I know for fans of Freddy, it's like, no, I like it. No. I'm just hypothetically. Can you imagine if they had never made another Elm Street film? How classic. It already is classic. But how even more revered than it already is, it would be. Heather Knight, she's so young here. She's like, she's 55 now, I think. Or 54. She's got to be like, well, 21? 22 here. Oh, the father knows who fucking Fred Krueger is. They call Freddy Krueger in this movie a lot. They refer to him as Fred Krueger. And even in the opening credits, you'll see Robert Englund in the credits. You'll see Robert Englund as Fred Krueger. They don't credit him as Freddy Krueger. Maybe they do at the end credits. I can't remember, but they credit him at the beginning as Fred Krueger, and they refer to him a few times in this movie as Fred Krueger. The mother does. Nancy does. Darren Sand says the second movie deserves... Oh, yeah. No, I agree. I totally agree with that. I think Elm Street 2 is a good movie. And yes, there's, of course, the homosexual undertone to the film that is very apparent, certainly now, when you watch it objectively. But I've always been a big fan of that movie. Yeah, I like Elm Street 2. I'll throw that one up on the list for voting. I think I had it up there the first time we did Saturday Movie Night. I think I did. But I will definitely throw it on the list for sure. Our next Saturday Movie Night will probably be, I'm not sure. Next weekend, of course, I'm going to be back in Los Angeles for the Voice Arts Awards. And then the weekend after that might be a bit tricky for me, but I will keep you guys posted. And again, for those of you who are part of level number 3, don't worry, Thorazine will return. We'll come back, just taking a bit of a break right now until the Halloween news begins to heat up again. But Thorazine will be back, and I'm also thinking about maybe a horror theme show. We'll see. I don't want to. I got that thing with Tony tomorrow night, and lots going on, guys. It's exciting stuff.
I don't know.
What? Shh.
There's a coroner got to say. Been the John puking since he saw it.
I love it. What's the coroner got to say? I don't know. He's been the John puking since he saw it. That's fucking great. I love it. It's one of my favorite lines of the whole movie. It's just like, how fucking bad was it? And we saw how bad it was, but it's so great. David Ferguson says, do you think we will ever see another horror icon being born that could stand up there with Michael, Jason, Freddy? I think it's a good question, David. Yes, but I think it's evolving, right? Technology's evolving. How we're consuming media is evolving. Virtual reality look, it's just around the corner. In our lifetime, I firmly believe that we will be able to enter an oasis like you see in Ready Player One. I'm not saying it's going to be like the movie, but I'm just saying that virtual reality and how we watch movies and the movie theaters, and it's changing, and horror is changing, and things are cyclical. I get it, but I don't know if there will be another slasher character that will, be up. I mean, there might be, but I think it's going to evolve, and how we consume certain media, what horror will be in 25, 30 years in terms of what we're consuming and what that will be. And it's going to be so different. Do you know what I mean? I don't know if we're going to see this kind of thing again. In terms of another, because there's so many stories that you can tell until you're telling the same ones over again in similar ways. And, and then you'll always be compared to Freddy. And I think that's why horror for a while there went into the paranormal area, because now you're going into the ghost area and the paranormal area. But yeah, it's tricky. I could devote a whole video to that. That's not a bad idea. Maybe I'll do that. We'll see. But in a nutshell, it's kind of how I'm thinking. Like, maybe, but the landscape is changing so much that I think horror is changing. And the presentation of that horror is going to change. Darren Sand says, what's the topic tomorrow night with Tony? Oh, it's nostalgia. Nostalgia. Tomorrow night we'll be talking nostalgia. Our favorite, talking about movies, talking about cartoons we grew up with, TV shows, all that kind of stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun, for sure. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on this YouTube channel. 2 dudes and some bullshit. And that's open to everybody. So obviously Nancy is now dreaming as she enters the basement here. And I love that shot of her, just her face, as she's looking up at the camera and she closes her eyes and the camera zooms out. I love that. It's like, this is it. It's time. Silas says the Collector might be as close to it as newer movies that I've seen, but still not a slasher. Yeah, I think it's it's so tricky. It's to talk about it at length or in depth, because me, I like to be thorough. It's hard for me to give off-the-cuff answers without going really deep, so I might dedicate a video to it. It's a great question. It's just the landscape is changing, and, we've had other imitators. There are other low-budget slasher movies that have come along, but have never achieved the height of or success like Elm Street did or Friday the 13th did. Because at the time when these were being released, they were new. Nobody had ever seen these kinds of things before. So that's why I say that the landscape in terms of what horror and how we consume media will be in 10 or 15 or 20 years will be vastly different than how we do it now. And that, whatever we're being scared of at that time will be new. I don't think you could do this again and have the same effect. You might be able to do this and have the same effect in a virtual reality sense, where where we're watching movies, but we're in the movie kind of thing. Like, what the fuck, right? It's crazy to think that we're moving in that direction. And I kid you not, even Spielberg said, what you see in my movie, Ready Player One, we're not that far away from that. Like, we're not that far away from that. Like, literally, That doesn't mean on a mass scale where everybody has access to that. Okay, that might be a few years off, but it's kind of creepy. It's crazy to think. So Nancy, I love how she goes into the basement of her house. Not too many people comment about this. I love how she goes into the basement of her house, but she continues to go deeper and deeper into the basement. So she goes into her own basement, but then she finds another door that goes even further into into the depths of the boiler room. I love that. Love that. So subtle and so simple, but that's what would happen. That's what would happen in a dream. That's what dreams are like. There's nothing crazy here. The sets are not extravagant. It's not outlandish. You don't feel like you're in, some kind of carnival with some carnival barker named Fred Krueger going, step right up. You don't feel that. It feels like it's a nightmare on Elm Street, not a fluffy dream on Elm Street. And everything looks legit. It's creepy. It's eerie. Yes, you totally know she's in the dream world. But you also, if you just turn this movie on and you had no idea what this movie was, there's nothing that says she's in the dream world by just looking at it. We know she is because we've been watching the whole fucking movie. But if you didn't know what this movie was and you happened to channel surf and see it, you wouldn't necessarily think she was dreaming. And I like that. I like that it feels legit. They feel like real nightmares. They feel like nightmares that you and I would have, you know? Frank Riker says, the thing is everyone calls horror icons by the first name, like their family, Freddy, Jason, Michael. Well, because they're household names. Absolutely. Yeah. When you reach that status, Chucky, yeah, but I don't think not in the same ways. Not in the same ways. That's my opinion. I love this. She finds Glenn's headphones with blood on them. And she's not scared now. She knows she's dreaming. She's having a lucid dream. Has anybody had any lucid dreams? I've had quite a few in my life, and it's pretty fucking cool that in your dream, you're dreaming and you take control of your dream. I've actually done that. I love this music too. And I love that she jumps and then she falls on the front yard of the Elm Street house. That's great. So simple. There's nothing sensational about that. It feels, like that dreams operate like that. It's great. And did you know that the address on the house in the Elm Street movies is the real address of the house? Instead of it being 1428 Elm Street, it's 1428 Genesee. I've done this whole fucking video with this hat on. Of course, I probably look nothing like Freddy Krueger with these glasses.
Check out the specs, bitch.
This is great. She thinks she's awoke, right? She thinks she's woken up. But there's nothing. It's cool. It's calm. And then Freddy jumps up from behind the bed. I love it. He's like, love that. He doesn't have his hat on. And he's still in darkness. You can see him, but he's still kind of in darkness there. Darren says, did anyone see Freddy's Nightmares? Now that was a turd. Oh, yeah. Yep. I remember as a kid being disappointed that Freddy wasn't in them enough. He was only the host. What a great concept to be able to grab him and bring him into the dream world. Like, if this really was a one-off, hypothetically, if it was a one-off, it'd be a great one-off. Even hardcore Freddy fans would, I think, agree that if this was the only film, like, what a great movie, what a great concept. Yeah, he's getting his ass kicked. You can actually see whatever he landed on there. You can actually see it move. Obviously, it was a mat of some sort. But notice how you're not seeing him clearly. He's always, you definitely can see him, but he's in shadow and he's got that serious, vibe. He's scary. He's frightening. He's a frightening human being. David Lee Barron says, if they made another Nightmare, do you think they can make it a truly frightening movie? In other words, do you think they can make a Nightmare movie that will do justice to the original? Yes. Yes, they can, but they have to understand what makes the character. They have to make up their minds. Do we want him funny? Do we want him scary? Because in my opinion, you can't have both. I know there was a nice little bit of a hybrid there with Elm Street 3, but you got to make up your mind of what kind of Freddy you want. What kind of Elm Street film do we want to make? And then we have to stick with it and go with it. Don't worry about pleasing fans. Make a good, scary, frightening movie, because at the end of the day, that's what people want to see with A Nightmare on Elm Street. They want to be scared. They're not paying money to see a comedian. They're paying money to get scared, in my opinion. So, yes, I think it can be done. But I this is great. The actor, whoever the actor was, the stunt guy that was on fire here going up the stairs is great. And the audio they added in it's great shit. I love this. I love seeing that, like, the commotion is now coming from one side of the street to the other, and it's one shot of John Saxon coming across the street to the house, and of course you see the smoke coming through the windows. It's great. It's really awesome to think that she's been able to grab him and pull him into reality. And now that the police officers are there, you almost do, as an audience member, you almost feel this sense of relief, like, oh, fuck, thank God they're there finally, right? And then things are not what they seem, and you realize, shit. I love this, too. I love the footprints, the fire footprints up the stairs. It's great. It's so simple. It's not sensational. It's just great and creepy. Yeah, opening the door. Do you guys remember on the back of the VHS box when Freddy's on fire on top of the mother? That was the picture on the back of the VHS box. Do you guys remember that? Back in the 80s, I mean, not anything new now. This was cool, too. This was cool. Look at that. Look at that hand. It's great. I love it. I love the dissolve into the... Yeah, it's good. There's very little about this movie that I don't like. You know, there's a few nitpicks that you could pick at and, you know... But it's a pretty solid movie that still holds up today. The ending, I know, is an area of contention for a lot of people. Wes Craven wanted to end it completely and not leave the ending open... not leave it ambiguous, whereas I believe Robert Shea, wanted it to be a little more ambiguous, a little more open for the potentiality of some sequels, which is why we got the blow-up doll of the mother being pulled through the window. I actually like it. I think it's kind of cool. Back in the 80s, of course, now it looks dated because now you know it's a blow-up doll, and you certainly can tell that. But I actually didn't mind it. I thought it was a cool kind of ending. Certainly, does leave it open for a sequel, but you did not have to make a sequel to this movie. You could have still had that ambiguous ending and not made a sequel. Of course, they did because it was a huge box office. Not only a box office success, but with the critics as well. This is great. Freddy coming up behind her. This is so good. And he's frightening. Watch his face here in a minute. Watch when he comes through. Look at his face. Look at that face. That's frightening shit. Look at that. Look at the way look at that. Look at the steam behind him. Look at the lighting on his face. He looks like he's fucking it looks like he just was burnt like 4 minutes ago. And you know she's getting to him. And the way she turns around. What? I love that. Look at his face. This is not Freddy's dead Freddy. This isn't Dream Child Freddy or Dream Master Freddy. It's not even Dream Warriors Freddy. Look at that face. And then he goes, and of course he falls into something weird of sparkly princess dust. I don't know what the hell that was. But nonetheless, I like that she opens the door and it's back to reality, so we think. But you know there's something wrong. If you pay attention to this, you know there's something wrong. And I'll give you a clue to what it is. Look at the smoke. Look at the smoke on the right side of the pillar there. There's something off. Now, you could interpret that as, just it's morning dew, it's morning fog, it's the morning, she's on her way to school, but it's not, right? You can actually see the smoke blowing from the fog machine. It's great. I love it. It's dated, I know, but it's awesome. I've stood at exactly that spot where the car pulls up. Of course, there's two big hedges there now. But you can see the smoke, and then, of course, the top comes up, and it's Freddy's sweater, which is great. Yeah, you could have ended it right here. And, of course, there is an alternate ending where it's Freddy driving the car. Look that up on the DVD and Blu-ray. That's cool, too. The mother's not paying attention, completely oblivious. Here comes the hand. There are the girls. There goes, yeah. That's great. I will say, though, you see, back in the 80s, you know, when you saw that in the theater or even on VHS, nobody was pausing this shit. Nobody was pausing and looking at it. Now you can pause it and you can go, oh, yeah, that kind of looks like a doll. But the way they cut it, though, you only kind of see this part. Yeah, sorry. He's credited as Fred Krueger. Yeah, so he's not credited as Freddy. But yeah, it's you know, he's pulled through. I didn't mind it. A lot of people don't like it, and I agree that you know, they probably could have done something a bit better, but it never bothered me as a kid. And I see it now and I'm like, it doesn't really bother me right now. But it's certainly the kind of movie where you could have left it. You could have left it. Yeah. And now the credits are rolling. The credits are rolling. So that was 1984's A Nightmare on Elm Street, ladies and gentlemen, directed by Wes Craven and released by New Line Cinema. Basically saved New Line Cinema from tanking into the toilet. And that was the movie that sort of did that. And I believe New Line Cinema also has a nickname, the house that Freddy built. I think there's a nickname, or at least they used to call it that, because even though New Line has had much more profitable films since Elm Street in 1984, obviously, that was the movie, of course, that sort of saved them, essentially. So they kind of gave it that nickname. I don't know if they still call it that, but certainly back in the day, they used to refer to New Line as the house that Freddy built. So it was kind of cool. Anyway, so who watched it with me? Who's all still in the chat room here? Who watched it with me? You guys don't have to, of course. I'm not expecting you to, but if you did watch along, it's always fun when people watch along. I really enjoy doing these kinds of things. So yeah, so that will do it for me, guys. That will definitely do it for me here. And Tabitha watched it. Awesome. Good to hear. I think a couple other people watched it too. Great stuff. So yeah, so I will definitely keep you guys posted on when the next Saturday movie night will be. It might not be till the beginning of December, but we'll see. Okay. Like I said, next weekend I will be out of town in Hollywood. The weekend after that, I might be able to do it the next Saturday, but like I said, I will keep you guys posted. So yeah, that is it for me. Let me just put this down here. Oh, somebody's moving chairs up there. I will talk to you guys soon. This has been fun. This has been fun. And for those who are tuning in after the live feed, comment below and let me know your thoughts. If you guys want to follow me on Facebook, you can at facebook.com/manythingsdave McRae. That's where I tend to post in the meantime and in between time. When I'm not posting here, the link is in the description. And don't forget to tune in tomorrow night right here on this channel, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Open for everybody. 2 dudes and some bullshit with Tony Michael from Atlanta, Georgia. We're going to be talking nostalgia from the 80s and the 90s and even a bit of the 70s in there too. So, yeah, that'll do it for me. Let me turn on this flickering light here. Let me get some mood to say goodbye. Ah!